Is this it tonight?
It is.
So we're missing Annie's or
Is
Jerry?
Ron over here tonight?
I'm sorry?
Is Ron coming tonight?
He's still
No, he will not be here tonight.
He's on I think he's in Tennessee this week.
He'll be at our regular meeting for the month, October meeting.
Okay.
So has the city council approved him yet?
Yes.
Yeah, he's approved.
Yeah, he's good.
Okay.
All right, call the meeting to order. Do a roll call.
Cannageeser, Reeser, Buffington, Jackson,
Here?
Alexander, Graves,
Here.
Shelby.
Here. Discussion and review, Whitaker Park Pool final plans, Don Paddock, Paddock Enterprises. Don?
We aren't at final plans. We're getting there, but we aren't at final plans
Not
yet.
final.
We are, can I mention these dates we discussed?
Sure.
Or do you want to mention them? What we're?
Sure, the agenda. So, let's review the plans. Let's go through plan review and answer questions, with the plans. Let's do that first, and then we can talk about, the
Okay.
potential calendar.
We'll go through drawings. What we're attempting to do is get 100% drawings, everything in order to come back on October 24th.
Okay.
And so that's where, and there's a bunch of dates thereafter to,
Okay.
but we have, you've seen the drawings. And the drawings are, I call them 85%, but they're 85 or 90% with some errors and some changes that have to be made. And we're in a red line state where we're fixing things. I'm gonna stand under here and
That's fine.
talk loud and point. Okay, we have demolition, we're getting rid of a building that's the old concession building that is right here, and we're redoing fencing to adapt to the new area. We're coming over on the north end of the bathhouse, and we're adding a zero-entry wading pool. And the wading pool has no features in it really, except for it has 3 vertical sprays in the zero entry as you walk down into it. And those 3 sprays, if the little kid steps on it, if the little kids step on 2 of them, then one of them gets it all. So you might have something 6 foot that's all of a sudden going up 12 or 15 foot. So just something to play with. There is a shade structure that is going to be at that area. So mothers and whoever can sit and relax in the shade and watch their kids. I've got 2 diving towers shown here. There's only going to be 1. And I think it has to do with the cost. I just want to reduce cost. And the fact that I didn't want to put a 3-meter board on it. I was putting a 1-meter stand on it, so I thought a 1 meter would be fine. So we're doing 1 meter. We have 2 attractions. One is a climbing wall, and one is a zip line. These attractions are going to be bid as an alternate bid item. So the city can choose to take them or choose not to. And depending on, of course, everything depends on the money, so look at the money and say, okay, yeah, we really can't do that. The floor of the pool at the deep end, there is an area, I don't remember what it was, 6 or 8 feet by 50 feet, and then another area that has some cracks in it, that we're cutting it out and taking it out and putting 3 sumps in the deep end, the main drain sumps. We also are redoing the under, we're putting a bunch of rock under there so we have water going to hydrostatic valves that are in these boxes. So they don't have to worry about, right now, they go down there when they close down for the year and they have a plug in one of the things that they pull out. Well, with this, we won't have to. It'll just, if there's more water on the exterior side of the pool than in the pool, these relief valves will just push water into the pool. And it's just a protection feature to keep the pool from floating and save the structure. So, with the wading pool, we're putting this new wading pool in. We also are putting a filter system in for the wading pool, filter mechanical system. It's going to be field located in this area. It is going to have the piping from it. We have to have an emergency drain on the wading pool. The emergency drain is going to go through the tunnel that's underneath the pool, underneath the decking, and go down to the filter area. The water line to take care of this wading pool is going to travel from underneath the filter area where the water is and connect up here at the wading pool. The electricity, I'm not sure yet whether, but it can come from down here or it can come from the pole. Electrical engineer is just getting the stuff right now to go ahead and proceed with it. And so, we are taking, the interior of the pool is getting sandblasted. We're rubbing out walls to a uniform finish. Not building up and coating walls, because if you try to coat walls, then you get delamination in winter months and stuff. So we don't want that. So we're just rubbing out walls, and all the old light fixtures that were in it, there's whole boxes, we are doweling and plugging those things. So they're going to be rubbed out with the wall. So it'll just be a smooth surface. Then the floor, we sandblast, but we don't do anything to it. We just live with the imperfections. And we'll epoxy coat the whole thing. The expansion joints that are in the pool, they will be cleaned out and redone with new caulking and just be addressed so it's not a water loss problems. We're saving all the ladders, and we are putting new lifeguard chairs in. So our deck equipment is 1 meter dive tower, and I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lifeguard chairs.
Do we have requirements from the state health department about how many lifeguard
Yes,
chairs?
yes, you've got to have one for every 2,000 square foot of surface area, or close to it. So, the decks are kind of painted, you know, they kind of got this little white, looks like someone painted them or whitewashed them. They are going to be brush blasted, which is a real light sandblast, try to remove that stuff, and then we're leaving it as is, and we're doing nothing to it. We're gonna live with it. All the joints that are in the decks, we're cleaning out and recalking and cleaning up the, just so no water's passing through it and stuff like that. Where you got curbs and stuff that are painted out there, the curbs will be brush blasted too. Those will probably be repainted. The curbs that have been painted, because they'll be hard to make look decent.
On the deck of the pool, you said you're going to rush blast it?
Right.
Okay, so does that leave bare concrete then?
Leave bare concrete, leave it as is.
And that's gonna be really hot.
It could be a little bit hot, yes. We have, every pool we do, outside pool we do, just has bare concrete.
Just have very.
It does not have any inspection.
Doesn't have any
No.
coating on
No, and it's because of this part of the country. You go to try to put a cool deck type product on, it delaminates. 10% of it looks like heck after the first year, and you know, if 10% of it looks bad, it all looks bad.
it. Okay.
So we just don't do that.
So the same way around the wading pool then, right?
Same thing out around the way, we'll just be bare concrete.
Quite a bit of water that stands in that back corner anyway, so if they can make it from one place to the other, and cool their feet off.
So,
You said you were covering up the lights that were in there. Will there be lights in the pool at all?
no,
No
No.
lights?
no lights in the pool.
If there haven't been, I don't think.
There have not been in probably 40 or 50 years,
Yeah, long time.
but I don't know what the overhead lighting does to it. There's some overhead lighting, but I don't know to what extent it lights up. But we do not want to address it just because of money. So, we submit to the state, and once it's approved and we get past your approval, the council approval, we'll submit to the state. We're calling these existing things, the existing slide in the corner to remain, existing slide to remain. They could come and say, well, you need to get rid of that slide. And we say, okay, no problem. But I think we leave it on and let them say that. So, our bathhouse. We're gonna end up trying to paint the outside, the inside gets painted. The floor is getting removed in the bathhouse on the men's and women's side. To the extent, I'm not sure yet, the architect's supposed to decide how much has to come, because I told him I want the minimum amount. That we start out taking it all, and I think, if we can save half of it, we save $30,000, so so we're gonna try to save as much of it as we can. We are putting a new entrance on the front end, where basically, there's doors where you have one door on the corner. If you go around the corner, there's gonna be one door there, so there's two doors or two openings. And then there's a cross section that we either gonna have a pull-down door there, or we're gonna have a pull-down door on each one of those small doors. Just that, we're working on that right now. I just want it to be open where when you drive by, it looks a little cool. And we're going to put a canopy or a covered area that kind of, just so it looks like an entrance area on the front of it. But the doors, we're still trying to work out problems and having to change things a bit. So, just because there's no room, it's got 8-foot ceilings in there, and so you have some problems. You got 8-foot ceilings, but then you don't have an attic or anything, you got a upstairs. The upstairs, we're doing nothing to, except for we're putting a chain across the steps that are going up there, and we're gonna hang a sign that says no trespassing, or keep out, or don't feed the man upstairs. So the inside and outside we painted. We're replacing door on the filter mechanical room down here. Door and frame are being replaced. We're replacing a bad door on the outside of the, what is this one?
It's the women's, outside women's room.
Outside of the women's. The door going to the deck area, you almost have to kick it open. So it just won't open. So we're redo the door and frame there. The counter in the concession area is being redone to meet ADA stuff. The lighting is, the electrical in the bathhouse being redone. So, parking lot and area on the outside is being redone so it meets code. What's there doesn't even meet code. So, says handicap parking, but it doesn't meet any criteria right now.
So back to your bathhouses, you have fixtures, all new fixtures in the bath.
All new fixtures, all new toilet urinals, showers. Showers are gonna be surface, but water pipe are probably gonna be surface mounted on the walls just because it's existing walls and we don't wanna tear walls out or miss walls.
What will be done with the parking on the south side of the pool?
We aren't touching the parking on the south side of the
Okay.
pool, so.
Larry, does that need any attention? I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. We'll do some attention with our folks.
Okay.
Well, Frank told me not to touch it, that he was gonna take care of it.
Okay, all right.
So if that parking lot needs to be attended to, we'll tend to that, as well as the bumper, the bumpers and
Well, I think,
striping and all that.
yeah, I think you can do that. I think we need to get the ADA stuff
Correct.
in the contract.
I think that there used to be a water fountain outside, it hadn't worked for years.
On the backside.
On the backside.
There's a new water
We're
fountain.
gonna have a water
Yeah,
fountain,
new water
okay.
fountain goes on the backside on the pool house.
Okay, good. That hasn't worked, that'll be nice.
In the filter room, we've got, they're called jack legs that support the filters. There's a few of those that are just, look like they're getting ready to crumble. So I've got those being replaced, or part of the batteries being replaced. I've got a new pulsar chlorinator being installed, or being put in. I've not addressed the motor or anything. I guess Frank's gonna pull it and have it checked out to start it. So, but I have not addressed it. The air bleed line is gonna be corrected and be a manual one. The filter valves, everything are gonna be manual operated instead of this pneumatic thing that doesn't work. So we'll get all that junk out of there. So,
Striping, did I notice you put lanes in the pool? Is that,
we put lanes in the pool, I don't know what, to start with, if you do it, it looks really cool. It looks like you got something there. So,
So how many meters long is the pool, or yards?
yeah. I don't remember.
I think it's like 165 feet.
It's a 50-meter pool. It's 164 for a little bit thereabouts.
Did you say 50?
It's a 15-meter pool.
is that still in scope as of right now, or do you know yet?
Is that what?
Is that still in scope, putting the lanes in?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we've got to make sure the depth markers are proper on the thing and all that, so, really haven't even addressed that yet, but that's part of the numbers, so,
Could this pool ever be used for swimming tournaments?
yeah.
Sw-
It's not parking.
Not enough parking, okay.
Not enough parking?
No. I mean, you can do small ones, but you're not gonna even do, like, tri-state. It won't be for parking regulations for tri-state.
How many people do you see, or how many people go to one?
I don't have a good number for you with that. I can ask my coach, and she can tell us, but
Even with all the parking we have at the park, there's not enough parking.
We're getting ready to do a whole bunch of new parking, but tennis court.
Yeah, that's what I don't
We
understand.
handled all these other events, we handle it.
That's what I was gonna say, I can't imagine we can't handle
Yeah.
parking.
If we're gonna have an event like that, I used to be a competitive swimmer, they're gonna spread out all over the place and
Or
come.
park wherever they can park.
Yeah, because they're gonna wanna put their blankets under the trees and,
So,
We've had huge events in the park, you know, and
So they could also park at Jefferson and maybe ask the Church of Christ? That's
Yeah.
not too long of a walk,
yeah.
right?
That's too long.
Just trying to be creative and figure out. I mean, I guess where I was kind of going with this is, if it was used for a swimming tournament, you'd have to have some sort of, not benches, but something to jump off from. What do you call those things you jump?
Starting block?
Starting blocks, thank you.
there's some
It's not
upstairs, but they're
mandatory.
not.
Okay,
It's not always mandatory.
so they can just jump off the edge of the pool into the,
If it's deep enough, yeah.
They
Well,
used
you
to have.
would have to change what you're doing a little bit. I mean,
okay.
we don't have lane dividers in it. We
Yeah,
don't have
true.
anything in it.
are you gonna have the hook spots for them?
That is true.
You could
But
have,
we don't.
and you also have to have the little things when you go the backstroke, the little.
Backstroke
black
flags.
Flags and stuff, so we got none of that. I mean,
That's not that hard.
we're treating it as a recreational pool. If everybody loves it and you feel like it, and
There used to be all this stuff. Like I said, years ago, they had swim meets and tournaments, and
Yeah.
there's the pedestals upstairs that they need replaced. But there used to be the high goal, we used to have this, just over years, it's, you know. just-
I guess where I was just thinking, I know it's not available now, but if it could be prepared for in the future, you know, we could get money maybe in the next budget for lane dividers. Because I think swimming tournaments are really popular, and it would be wise, I think, to prepare the pool to make sure we can handle that.
But I think Thunderbird could use it to swim like, non-competitive. Swim team members could possibly practice, use it as a practice.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we
Yeah.
had in mind originally was for a practice facility. The thing we ran into in my discussions with the swim team was a lot of these meets are year-round. They do it, this is only a summer-only type venue if we used it. So in the rest of the year, you've got to have some type of a covered facility or heated or,
But that can also work around as well. I'm the aquatics coordinator at the rec center, so I oversee our swim team as well. We have a coach that pretty answer all these questions much better, but there are pools across the tri-state area that we go to. Our swimmers swim miles and miles and miles away. And through the summer, a lot of the pools are outdoor pool. And then in the winter, when we do like your rec leagues and stuff like that, those are more indoor pools.
Yeah,
Summertime.
that's-
And that's what we would be using ours for, is to do summertime.
Yeah.
Rec center, we do rec leagues in ours all the time.
Don, I don't know if I was gonna give you a chance to kind of get through. I had just a general question. I mean, you've also been focused, we've got a budget constraint of how much
Yes.
we can spend. What would you say, based upon what's in scope right now, how much of that, what's the percentage between the two of how much is absolutely necessary to meet Oklahoma's Department of Health guidelines, restore functionality to make it where we can operate it, versus how much of it is discretionary that we're adding on or doing that's new to try to entice more people into it? Do you have a sense of that yet, or,
my sense would be 50%.
okay?
The bathhouse is a disaster, and it's gonna take a lot to get going. And, you could say, hey, I'm not gonna do the wading pool at all. You could say, I'm not gonna do any attractions at all, and you eliminate that whole scenario. You could not do the decks. not do the lifeguard chairs or the dive towers. Yeah, I would say probably 50% of it,
Okay, thanks, that's what I was
so,
trying to get a sense of.
yeah. so.
Frank, do you think this meets the needs of your concerns with the pool from
Yeah.
earlier discussions?
Yeah, we've met several times and stuff, yeah, everything I was wanting.
So you feel all right with the cutting of it out and redoing the seams and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I did think on the seams, that's still like a temporary deal. I mean, it's gonna be nice, but when we had that done a few years ago, it lasted about 2 years, we was constantly still having to redo the seams.
Well, I would hope it'll last long.
Yeah, I hope they do it, but no, everything's on there that I was on.
Okay.
So on the, talking back about what you were talking about the competitive, and you were talking eye bolts or whatever it is to hold, should that be put in there now, even though we're
No, I
not
don't
doing
think
that?
so.
It can be added at any time and not
I
as
mean,
being covered?
you'd be doing the same thing after the, when you get ready to do it, you'd be doing the same thing that you'd be doing now. And now we're so much up against the money that,
He can hear me.
we're so much up against the money part of it that I don't think we'll keep adding to the project right now.
And it shouldn't be hard to add those at a later time.
At a later time, when you decide, yes, we're gonna do this, then all of a sudden you gotta have stanchion posts and flags. I don't even know if they're there now. And you've gotta have
Gotta have lane ropes.
lane ropes and reels to store them on, or else, I guess you can always just throw them up in the attic like you do everything. So,
And for those that haven't been, I know, Roy, you haven't necessarily, but been involved since we first started talking about this. When I think about this, I think 80% of the value, the business case for this, for doing what we're doing here, is really gonna be just having the pool open and available for kids to go swim in. And these other things, I think, which is what we've wrestled with, there's a lot of things we could do, but it's a matter of, do we have the money? And the money's tight right now. I think the mayor's found some money that we can use to fund this. But that's the reason. I don't want people to think, well, geez, what else could you guys be doing? And the reality is, we're trying to make sure we can just get it open.
Gotcha.
And then, following that, if we have funds down the road, we could put them into it. But
well, I'm doing things that I'm trying to fix what's broke and what's required, and also make something, as people drive by, they say, yeah, I want to go there. So,
Don, from doing what you're going to do, how much more life expectancy can we expect with our upgrades and repairs that we're doing out of that pool, realistically?
well, realistically, the main structure seems to hold up, and, you get another 30 or 40 years from now, your structure might, all of a sudden, have an earthquake, or you might have problems. Normally, on these renovation jobs and stuff, you say, well, you're trying to make it last as long as possible, but usually they need to be upgraded every 20 years. Well, if we get the fixtures right in the bathhouse, and that's one thing that you aren't gonna have to do 20 years from now, other than repairs that are needed in the bathhouse. So, that's a loaded question into what you want.
Oh, I understand.
Part of the answer to that question is what we are willing to do going forward after the renovation, as far as keeping our maintenance current, and keeping it up to standard. So the more we keep it up to standard, the less it's gonna cost us over time. If we let it deteriorate.
It's like painting. painting, I like to say that we get it epoxy coated. I like to say, well, if it lasts 5 years, you make it last 5 years, that paint job. If you need to touch up things at 3 years, or even 2, you have an area you need to touch up, you make it last that 5 years before you do the complete paint job again. Well, when you do a paint job, what you're supposed to do is brush blast and then coat it again. So it's an epoxy paint, so you're supposed to, the manufacturer likes you to brush blast and get the lattices off the surface and get it so it'll take the paint again. And so if you do that every 5 years, you might last 9 years, I don't know. I had a project near Oklahoma City. I'll just tell you a story. I had a project near Oklahoma City. The first paint job was done, or the paint job on the renovation was done when we renovated the pool. The pool was built in the 70s, like 71 or 72, was renovated in 95. And so when it was renovated, they rubbed out the walls like you're rubbing out these walls. They epoxy coated the thing, and it lasted 9 years. I got a call from the guy, and he said, well, we're getting ready to repaint this thing. And I told him the story on what he needed to do. And I didn't hear back from him. He called me, I was talking to him a month later on something else. He said, oh, we found the paint a lot cheaper and we painted it. And they've been painted, and since then, they've been painted every year since then, recoated. So, you know, people have that mentality that they're saving money when they aren't saving money. So, you get a big pumping motor like, is that a 30 horsepower or what is that now? 25 horsepower motor that costs $20,000 or so, and you need to replace it, you know, where I've seen, in the old days, you felt like you had motors that lasted 30 years. Well, these days, you feel like they make motors to be replaced, and 20 years later, you need to replace the motor or something. Well, if you didn't plan on replacing the motor, all of a sudden, 20 years come along, and you say, well, get a price for a new motor. You got $20,000, and everybody's up in arms because it's $20,000. Well, if they've been saving $5,000 or $7,000 a year, or even $10,000 a year, every year that goes into the budget for keeping that pool up, then they wouldn't have that problem. But I only know a few cities that actually do that. So actually have a program where they save money and they actually are putting things into it every year. And that's the problem. They get a pool like that and they don't want to put anything into it. The council, oh, no, we can't spend any money. So,
Well, to your point, I put together a couple of thoughts, and when we first proposed this, what was this, back at the beginning of the year, or was it this? Yeah, it was the beginning of this year, wasn't it? The business case to me on this thing, and I think it pertains exactly what you're talking about, is if there were some parameters around it, to me, they are, we can't exceed, the renovation cost can't exceed $800,000. That's our limit, kind of what we've got funding for at this point. If somebody's got a better number than me, but these are the constraints we're kind of working in, so 800,000. The total repair and maintenance cost over the next 10 years will not exceed 100,000. The net operating cost over the next 10 years will not exceed 255,000. The city will make a decision to continue to operate the pool for the next 10 years. And the annual pool cost will only represent about 1% of the city's annual budget each year over the next 10 years. And it's going to open on May 23rd. So those are of this year. But those are the things that I had in my head when I went before the council and proposed this, saying, we can't afford a new pool. So we're working within these budget constraints. And what are they? We've got to be able to maintain our operating costs that's going to hit our budget. We've got to be able to maintain maintenance. And so what are the risks to this business case of it failing? And the number one risk here is fail to perform planned maintenance. So if we're not committed to doing maintenance, and if we're not committed to doing repairs on a timely basis when they happen, that we don't let them linger, that we're not willing to fund those when they come about. And then we get into the project itself, we're going to be talking about project cost overruns. So when we talk about, we got a budget of $800,000, but our history has been that we've exceeded that. So how much should we really scope this to from a cost standpoint so that it gives us a cushion? So, because if we exceed this $800,000, I'm concerned, and we don't control our operating cost, this thing's gonna be an albatross around our neck, and we're gonna have the community going, why did you put that much money in that old pool when you could have built a new one? They will have forgotten we don't have the money to build a new one. But that would be the response of, and it's true, why pour all this money into an old facility? And especially if you start having, you say it's gonna cost 800, and you end up costing 1.5 million or 2 million. So I've got that off my chest, but I feel personally responsible here for being an advocate for this. But I do think we have to be aggressively manage the scope of this project and do the things that Don's talking about. We gotta be committed to doing that, to doing planned maintenance and making repairs, and we've gotta put this money in the budget. So,
And we talked about bidding, and we talked about money. We say, golly, this thing ought to be able to be done for $800,000, no problem. Well, everything that I've done lately has been ridiculous. So I bump up my estimates, and then they blow up on me again. So we don't know until this thing bids what it's gonna do. Now, I met a guy in Tulsa this morning before I came over here, trying to promote bidding this project. And so, hopefully I got one more person gonna bid this thing. And I don't even know if any of the others are gonna bid it. So we'll see what we get. And it's gonna be, whatever it is, the city's gonna have to make a decision on whether they award it or not. And if you'll see me smiling from ear to ear if it's $800,000. So, and
well, we probably, don't you think, given the environment today, that going the full 800,000, scoping a project that we think is gonna come in 800,000 is probably not the wisest thing to do, given we don't know what the bids are gonna come back at. We have no cushion if we go over it. So, from a standpoint, I think it's something we have to wrestle with, is what percentage of that 800,000 do we wanna put in scope originally, so that we do have a buffer? Because this is an old pool, and you may run into things that we have no idea about that we have to address from a functional standpoint. So if we take all the money and we put it out there and commit it to the original scope, anything else is going to be supplemented from somewhere else, that somebody's going to have to go out for the money.
So, let's talk about that on item 4,
Okay?
if you don't mind.
Any other discussion?
This is time to ask him questions about the plans and anything about, and so we've talked about that, and have we talked about the plans, or is there anything else about the plans we need to point out?
I think I'm just trying to get the scope.
So, did you by chance notice if there's any, how level the pool is? Starts in the shallow end? What's that problem with the ground?
With the deep ends dropping.
I know that there's an
I don't-
instrument to measure that, I don't know.
Shoot elevations and see.
Was this a deep end or did you see that?
Just, like when I first started, in the shallow end, drop, but that might be the biggest one because of the deep well. I don't know.
That's my concern about
No, it
something we've
won't
not
with
seen
that.
yet, is
With that,
the drop in.
you know, if we,
That's a good point.
if we were dealing with mechanical and going to replace recirculation and do, you know, originally we talked about putting standstill gutter on it possibly, or, doing a big renovation on it, and we switched that, to just doing what we needed to do. So no, we are not addressing that.
And so far, it hasn't been an issue,
How much difference is it?
in, like now, like when the water's going over that southeast corner, the northwest corner by the diving boards, probably this.
6
is the
inches.
wall.
Yeah, 5 or 6 inches
So when
probably.
DHS, or Department of Health comes and inspects, as long as they got the water on, and you're supposed to have water going over the gutter, there's only so much I can do, they've always, you know, when I got it going over there and I got the water on, they're, okay.
Never addressed,
Yeah.
never thought about it.
But in the last, in those years, that's one thing, it's went from here to here, so, you know, it is saving on the problem.
So you're saying the water's not getting circulated properly then?
No,
If
the
it's-
water's getting circulated, just, it's not an even
The deep
bowl
wells-
flowing everywhere at the same time.
But isn't that part of what it does when it goes over the wall? It goes back through the circulation system.
Probably why the Department of Health requires it to go over.
Yeah, it was going all over everywhere else, just in this corner, this drop, you know, but yeah, so as long as I got it going over the gutter everywhere else, it's.
And that was one of the concerns we had about the integrity of the structure, because it had dropped.
We had some flooding and
Yeah.
issues early on.
Right, it had dropped in that corner, and so we did the evaluation of the radar with the structure, and it revealed that the structure was not compromised to the point where it was going, where it was dangerous, and it could still be used, so.
It's actually sitting on bedrock, isn't it? Isn't that what we found out? That it was like, there were no voids underneath there.
Correct. You know, so we found that information, and that was part of the information we used to say, well, yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the renovation to, try to get it up and running, so.
Any other questions? Item number 3, discuss possible recommend council action regarding approval of the final plans for renovation of the Whitaker Park Pool. Estimated cost will be discussed at a meeting time.
So, first of all, this action item probably needs to be tabled because he doesn't have final plans. So he has plans that are about 85, 95, 90% completed. But he does have an estimated cost that he's brought today, which is an estimated cost. We're not going to find out what it costs until it goes out to bid. But he does have an estimated cost. Fire away.
$878,685.
878,
$685.
no cents, huh? Okay.
I got no sense.
Now, does this include design fees?
No.
Okay.
No, the design fees are being paid as we go.
Okay.
The design fees are being paid as we go.
So none of the funding that you're looking at would be used to pay design fees?
No, the funding that I'm looking at will be used to pay for whatever that bid price is.
Okay.
So the design fees, we have already funded the design fees.
Like I say, I would normally feel, golly, I feel great about this estimate. But the way things have been the last couple of years, my gosh, I want to feel great about it, but
Yeah.
until it comes out, I don't know. That's why I'm meeting with a contractor in Tulsa, trying to get us another bidder here, that I've been having trouble getting bidders even on these things.
Well, I don't know if this is the place you want to talk about the relationship between scope of work an estimate, right? The more scope we put in scope, the higher the estimate, right?
Sure.
And so, it's back to this deal of, if we're gonna try to manage this within the $800,000 that we've kind of told everybody, we're gonna have to have some cushion, to me. We can't go in thinking we're going to, I mean, the bid may blow us out of the water from a scope standpoint, and it may cause us to, but I just wonder, even going in, if we shouldn't reduce our scope to a point, and it can't go below what we have to do to get the functionality restored, but there's other things that are discretionary. And I guess, I don't know where we have that discussion or how we have that discussion, but that, to me, seems to be the one that's really important about scope. That's the relationship that we need to find out. How much cushion do we want to leave ourselves?
Well, I think as you complete the final plans, it would be appropriate now to talk about kind of a timeline, because we're gonna need to table this motion, because we don't have the final plans. Okay, so he's not prepared with the final plans tonight. We thought he might be, and so that's the reason why
Okay.
it's on the agenda that way. So, on October the 24th, we'll have another park board meeting. That would be our regularly scheduled park board meeting on October the 24th, and he anticipates that he will have the final plans at that point in time. So what this body would consider doing then is approving those final plans, and then sending a motion on to council for debate and approval, a possible approval on November the 1st. So, council meeting November the 1st. If council approves it, then we advertise and go out to bid, and request bids to be open 30 days later.
And we submit to the state at that.
Yeah, we submit to state at that point, and then we go on December 1st to bid opening. On December 1st. And we find out what the numbers are. Then, on December 6th, make a recommendation to council then, after the bid opening, after that bid opening. And if it comes in way high, we won't be able, with the funding that we have available, we wouldn't be able to extend the contract. What?
Isn't there a big break there? Because say they approve the plans here, that's when you send the Department of Health, and you don't know how long that's gonna take, right? They told us it could take
Not
up to
until-
10 weeks or something.
Well, they're supposed to be in less than 30 days, and that has not been a problem in the past.
I mean, they can't go further
but-
until DHS, or DHS.
But you have
Department of
to,
Health approves.
you have to approve drawings at council
We
to
have
do that.
We have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, but you
So
can't
that's
go
November
any
1st.
further until they approve the plans, right?
Can we send,
We can advertise.
we can advertise for
Yeah,
bid?
we can advertise and put it out and be in the process with the state while it's being advertised. What happens if it's awarded and they have a change or something they need, then I've got to negotiate with whoever the.
Okay, I was just going off
contractor
what
is.
he mentioned to me
Yeah.
over the summer.
Okay.
Like 8
So-
months.
Well, it's not supposed to be.
So Don, when you come back with that estimate, the next meeting,
On the 24th.
on the 24th, will that estimate be in a framework that we'll be able to kind of pick and choose if we want to draw it down? Or, I mean,
There's no drawing it down at that point. Now, what I'll do is identify, it's like I know I'm going to put the climbing wall, I know I'm going to put the zip line as alternate bid items. With everything we talked about, there's a few things that I'll pick out as big ticket items that we can discuss, and we might end up having to add a deduct alternate for that particular item. For instance, we could say, to delete all wading pool work, not do anything with the not put a wading pool in at all. So all piping, electrical, everything with the wading pool goes away, and you keep that corner like it is now.
Okay.
Except for you remove the other wading pool.
So, do you have a sense of if we, tonight, and this may be, you do or you don't, what you could come into us with, what's the minimum bid, what's the minimum estimate that would get that pool up and running with no add-on features, but would pass inspections?
I'm not gonna do that,
Okay.
but what I'll do is pick out some of the big ticket items that we can reduce the cost with.
So can I ask you then from that, how much, what percentage of the 800,000 do you think that would represent? Here's what I'm getting to is, how do you help us?
Maybe 200,000.
Okay. That's our dilemma is how do we get
Well,
estimates?
I think we put the project out to bid, we have a few deduct items to lower the cost, and if it's astronomical, we throw everything out and regroup and rebid again and figure out what we're gonna do. If it's not astronomical, but it's too high, then if the city will allow us to negotiate with the low bidder, then we try to get down to where you wanna be.
And I agree with that. The thing I'm trying to protect against is cost overruns. Things that we find out that we didn't spec, that we find out there's work to do, and they say, oh, you didn't tell us about this, you didn't provide specifications. We're running into that.
Well,
This is
hopefully
real
I'll
life
do a better
stuff.
job than that, but,
Well- But
if there is something that has to be addressed, we just have to address it at that time.
it's the city that's at risk for paying that. It's not, you wouldn't be responsible for paying that if it's a
That
cost.
is absolutely correct.
So we have to protect the city, and that's what I'm trying to do, is figure out a way that we can have some means of not getting ourselves in a position of overrunning the cost on this project.
You're trying to do a minimal project at the best you can do, and if it goes high, it's the times when we, like I said, that's where I say if we feel like we got astronomical cost, we throw it out and maybe say, hey, we need to wait 2 years and try this again. Or,
No, I'm saying, I've got a bill float with $800,000 in it, and if the bid comes in at 800,000, that sounds good until we have a cost overrun. I've got no more money. What am I gonna do? I'm already $500,000 in the project, I can't stop the project, and I've got no more money.
well,
I mean,
I can't argue that point.
yeah,
You know, that is not something to be argued. You know, I can be a pessimist on this whole thing, but I try not to be. And I try to do an estimate that is something to work with. And, you know, we're all trying to deal honestly and above board as best we can.
I'm not questioning that, I'm just questioning these.
It's a hard.
Am I being,
No,
is this
I mean,
irrational or what? Somebody tell me.
I mean, I do agree with what you're saying, because you get there and next thing you know, there's more to the deep end when they start getting in there, and now we're $100,000 more and more where we should be. Or, I mean, it could be lots of things when we get started.
I think it would be a
Fine.
mistake to get into this project and this thing cost us 1.5 million.
But you're not gonna get started if you don't accept the bid. I mean, you act like you're paying something ahead of time. You have to accept the bid. If you don't accept the bid, you're not paying nothing. I mean, you're saying like if it comes in, say
If
$1
it
million,
comes-
you're
No.
not paying any money. You haven't accepted the bid.
I'm saying,
If it-
let's take a real life example here. This happened in the city of Pryor.
Well, I can tell you what happened 2 weeks ago. The parking lots, tennis courts came in overbid. We rejected them. The we're modifying the deal, and we're rebidding, like you said, real simple. It's not like we were out any money or, we're in over 100,000.
But let me ask you this, Frank, they got into the project, and it cost more than $100,000 because they didn't know about this or this or this.
No, the engineers, kind of what he's saying, they're the ones that gave you projected amount, they haven't figured what it's gonna take.
So you're saying a project can't run over?
But we're not having any money. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, once you start a project, no, that's a fallacy. Once you start a project and you get into it halfway and you find new specifications or something else didn't come up out in the drawing, you've got to allocate more money to it.
Or we just reject it and don't do it, like you
Well-
said. If the new parking lot still comes in more than
Well-
what we budgeted.
Well, we could-
just turn it
Okay,
We
down.
time out.
What if to death?
Time out. Do you want solid 100% assurance that there's not going to be an overrun and that this structure is 100% going to be able to take this? So what
No.
you do in a contract is you create a contingency modification. You create a contingency modification that into the project. You create a retainage, a retainer, a certain percentage of retainer for problems or for mistakes or those kind of things to protect yourself. But we're taking the word of an architectural engineer, taking the word of structural engineer in doing the evaluation of the structure. And to the best of our knowledge, creating plans and estimates that are to the best of our knowledge, So when you deal with cost overruns, whose fault's that going to be? Or you want to say I don't want to be hung out because I promoted this and
Not only did it's not because I promoted it, it's because I think we lost the business case to spend that much money, depending on how much the overruns are, spending that much money on an old pool, when we could have put that money into a new pool. This whole business case is predicated on being able to get this pool back up and running.
So if we're afraid of cost overruns and we're going to approve something and go out to bid and find out with the bids how credible these estimates are.
The city's
When
gonna decide, say it is 1.2. Well, the city council gonna have to make that decision as to whether they wanna spend the 1.2 and have the contractor doing, knowing that they might have a little bit of an overrun on things. They might have something they have to do that.
$400,000.
Yeah, we can find $825,000 is what we can find right now. But that's before any grants are applied for. That's before we request help from any other agency. That's before we request help from any other agency. So what we can find in the city is $825,000. Is that within the scope of these estimates? Probably so. Is within the scope of this of the estimates that he's done. So what he's done, he's put together something that's really fairly close. And we go out to bid. If that bid's not something that we can do, we reject the bids. We come back and
That's
go back
the
to
easy
drawing
part. I
board.
understand the bid process, done it many times. That's not the issue. The issue is when you actually get into construction.
So another issue that we had, that I noticed, have they addressed any electrical in the office area?
Yeah, it gets on and like.
All of those, because I saw it has a little bit like in the office, in the,
Concession area.
Concession.
yeah, all that would be all new electric in there too.
All the electrical and plumbing and mechanical in
In
that.
that concession area, because they were having some, so that would be everything.
That's in that bathhouse part of it, yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, I understand the bid deal, and you're right. When the bids come back, they're too high, we can say we're not gonna do the project. What we can't do, though, is we get halfway into the project, and we've committed to, we've got, 300,000 or 400,000 in it. You just don't say, okay, I'm not gonna spend any more money.
That's right. As the city.
You're committed.
As the city says we do this contract, you say, okay, well, we might have something that costs a little bit more or something. Do we have a contingency, which you talked about earlier, to go back on to take care of that problem?
You can build a contingency modification system into the bids. Have you ever done that?
Absolutely, it's called change management,
Yeah.
and you have a change management process that says, okay, we're gonna agree, when this happens, here's how we're gonna go in.
Yeah.
But I guess I would ask you then,
But on a project, this is really a fairly small project.
yeah,
Yeah. So
It-
some
it
some of
is.
those multi-million-dollar projects that we worked on, this is not one of those projects. And so,
but this is a riskier project because that's all new construction we've been working on.
true.
This is tearing into an old structure that, and I think we all understand, when you tear into an older structure, you gotta make sure, you gotta be prepared to have gotchas that you don't know about. I'm not directing the dealer, but Chris has got his hand raised back.
Yeah, I have a question, and I understand what you're saying. It's when we get into the project, we want to have a way to make sure that we don't have more expenses and out of money. We don't want to run out of money before we go, basically. If the wading pool, the rock, and the zip line, just as a rough, throw out there idea, how much do you think that part of the project entails?
$250,000.
So if it came in that the total bid was $850, then we got wiggle room. That would address what you're concerned, which is also what I would be concerned, because I'm a numbers nut. I want to make sure we don't bite off more than we can chew. It would give us wiggle room. If it looks like everything's going good, then you can probably add those things, because those don't have to be done at the same time all the structure stuff is done.
No,
Yes.
they need to be approved.
They,
by the state.
So,
It all needs to happen right then.
Well, then that's something that we need to, what we're trying to do is get to how many, you said it was 50-50, you thought, and I know, I don't want to hold you to that. You just put a number out there. That 50% was required to get the pool back to an operating condition. 50% was going to be new functionality.
Yeah.
And so if we can have that 50% of new functionality, that would to me, would take care of the problem. If you scoped it and said, here's 5 new functional ideas I've got, and these can be done independent of the other the base project, that would give us the ability to pick and choose and say, how much do we want to commit to in this
I
project?
think you try to piecemeal that. I mean, what do you want to do? You're going to say, okay, don't want to do the entrance on the bathhouse. We don't want to paint the bathhouse. We don't want to paint the outside of that bathhouse. We don't want to paint the inside of the bathhouse. We don't want to put a door on the chemical room because we don't have to. We don't want to brush blast the decks. We don't want to brush blast, we don't want to take out the lifeguard chairs. It reaches a point where you say, why the heck are we doing the project? We're doing the project for 2 things, the functionality of the thing, but not just the functionality of that. The desire for people to use it, the desire for the public to drive by and say, I want to go to that place. And that's what I'm trying to do, kind of cover 2 things.
And I understand that, and you and I have had the discussion, you've said that's the business you're in, and you want to make something that people will show up, I do too.
You
But,
don't want to, I don't see you doing $500,000 worth of work to that thing, or $400,000 worth of work to that thing, when you got an average attendance of 10 people a day.
where'd that number come from?
I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, that's not a good number, but
So, So, item 3, you need to have,
So
you need to have
I-
a motion to table.
So I make them,
Need to have a
somebody make a motion to table item number 3, please.
I make a motion to table
I second,
item number 3.
and I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 4, discuss possible recommend council action regarding funding the Whitaker Park Pool renovation project 2022 with Mayor Lee's funding plan, which utilizes ARPA and additional grant funding. Need to
So-
table that too?
So, Mr. Chairman, I put this in here because we need to have a plan to fund. So these ARPA funds are available for us to use for this purpose. Right now, $409,523 is available. The $3,907 is available. The $411,452 is the portion of the tranche that we're supposed to receive in by the end of November. All right, so, so all, those numbers add up to $424,882. That's the amount of funding that we have that we can commit, that we would be able to commit to this project right now. That does not include any grant funds. That does not include an ask to Mid-American Industrial Park or to GRDA or to Cherokee Nation or to Mays County, or to any other grants that might be available for us. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the amount of funding that could be available. I would like for you to, you can table that, or you can send that on to council for approval. It really doesn't make any difference at this point, because you can table it until October the 24th. And then when we have the final numbers, send those numbers along with the plan to fund onto council at the same time.
Discussion?
I'd make a motion to table it.
Got a motion to table item number 4.
Item number 4.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 4's been tabled.
Good.
Item number 5, discuss possible recommend cancel action.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Discuss possible recommend cancel action regarding removal of either partial or completely a portion of the fence at Bobby Buck Park on the east side of the park, 416 feet from the south fence boundary. This is a joint project with MUB and Park Department and has no need for outside funding.
My thoughts, I think we should leave the 3 houses that are good, and then tear down the part that's yucky. And then if we want to have those 3 homeowners sign off that as of now, this is your fence, you take care of it, the city's, has no liability, that's my recommendation.
I actually went and looked at it. It helped me to look at it. hadn't
Yeah, I
done
saw
it.
it too.
Can I speak to that? So the fence is on city property. It's not on somebody else's property. I think it would be appropriate, I think it would be inappropriate to deed that fence over to somebody else when it's not on when it's on city property. So that would not be appropriate to do that. We have the commitment from Mid-American Industrial Park, from Municipal Utility Board to go in and help us take down that fence. Also to do, Frank, help me with that.
Yeah, since there's power lines there and stuff, and they went and inspected it, so there's a utility pole they wanna replaced already. So the Benner's power lines and stuff through there, that's why he said he would take his equipment and help us. Because they want to clear it out so it won't get the power lines themselves, so it'd be like, you know, the more or less they clear it out and we do this kind of work together.
Sure. So the three houses that everybody's concerned with, what is the plan with that then?
That would be to leave that fence.
Is that doable, to stop
Yeah.
it somewhere?
It was approximately 216 feet, and then the very corner of it is where one of the tree stumps were, and I think that's where the pole they're wanting to replace. As soon as we.
Power pole?
Yeah. So the first 4 or 5 feet would, you know, might be a little contrary, but then after that,
No problem.
yeah.
So, back, and this gets to the discussion we had last about that is city property.
Yeah.
Would it be advised, would the attorneys advise us to say, homeowner, you need to be aware that's on city property. If the city finds at some point in the future a need for MUB to remove that fence, it may be removed, but it's not something that, as of right now, we can't deed it over to them because we can't deed city property to somebody.
You're talking about the 216 feet on the three, on the.
I'm talking about the three that we're trying to figure out a way to work this out, that Pam's talking about.
Well, the only way, yeah, I mean, it's simple to work that out, and it's just do nothing.
But they know that if we come and ever take it out, for some reason, we need to take it out, and I don't know what that would be. But they would be of the understanding, the city is not deeding you that, is, you know, and we're not gonna maintain it, right? Or are we?
Yeah, we maintain our side of
Yeah,
it, sure.
Okay, so we'll still maintain it, just as long as we're clear as what the
That
expectation.
fence isn't perfect, it's just, it's better than the rest, and it's maintained, there's no.
Would you replace it?
No,
No.
not,
You're not ever, we're never gonna replace it, but we will maintain it?
not until it falls down.
Will we allow them to replace it?
No,
No,
No.
it's on our property.
These are things that we need to be clear with them about. Because homeowners change and people move in, so I think something in writing that says, from the attorney to me, would make sense.
Boils down to, though, it's city property. Homeowners doesn't really have anything to, city property.
Yeah, but if you come and they've got dog, and you come, I don't know that,
Well,
but they, yeah.
we would notify, that was
Yeah.
already planned out, and notify them ahead of time if, if they had to make it.
But somebody buys the house, I can see this happening, somebody buys the house, it's got a fence back there, and we suddenly determine,
Already told me that's why they bought, that was one of the things of why they
Yeah.
bought, because they like it.
that put a little pressure on, didn't it?
yeah.
I don't know.
Do we want to hear from Emily?
Yes, I was gonna say, I think she's here for this reason.
Yeah. I actually live on 106 South Main. You want to hold her? I don't know if she'll let you.
She's looking at you like, maybe?
Sure, no.
Mama's here. Hi. But anyway, yeah, so I live on 106 South Maze, and the fence, actually, that's where the tree is growing right through it.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I can see where it's like not the best quality of a fence, but it's also like me and my kids, I have two, this one and a almost 3-year-old. We have a routine where we go outside, or we either stay in my backyard or we go to the park. I like having that, choice. But without the fence there, my son will just run to the park and when I don't want to go to the park, right? We also have animals too that we don't want to keep them tied up. We want them to let loose, in the backyard. So without the fence there, that would kind of ruin that for us. But it seems like the safety aspect of it, we have sketchy neighbors, the rent houses. Mama Sue lives right here, I live right here, that's great. But where the rent houses start, it's sketchy. And we've already had people come into our front yard with the back fence being there, that kind of keeps the sketchy people out of our backyard, but they come into our front yard, we can't have anything on our front property at all. Like, they're sketchy, don't feel comfortable with it. We're the ones that live, we moved there, that's our choice, but, well, yeah, I'm third house, yeah. Yeah, so that's my thing.
So that would be the last house with,
Yeah. But like you said, you're gonna, at some point, it's up to the city, not us. If you guys could tear it down at any point. That worries me a little bit just for the safety aspect of it. Like my kids, my property that I don't want stolen when I'm sleeping.
But here's and this is, I understand your position, I'd be in the same.
Right, yeah.
But from a city standpoint, it's, you can always put a fence up back there. You can go put a new fence in there right now if you want to, without tearing that one down.
Right.
Because I think we've got a clearance in there.
How much is it?
I'd love to have a privacy fence, but we just don't have the money to do that for our
Yeah.
own self. Like, we want to do that really bad because of our sketchy neighbors. We want that privacy, but it's just not in our budget right now. Like, we're young, we have 2 kids
Yeah.
already, like, that's just not,
Did you buy the house?
yeah, we did, yeah.
Was you under the impression that the fence was yours?
No, we knew that it was city, which it was really cool that there's like, because the rental place, like, they don't have a way to get through, like, they don't have a gate like we do. I don't know where that came from, but we have a gate.
Yeah, they're the ones that does have a gate.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't know where it came from, but
Somebody decided to add one problem.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to get in the park and,
yeah, it's really nice. But I realize that the rent houses don't have that, and it's like really torn down. I'm thinking the rent people might have done that on purpose to have easy access to the park. And so, like, what my thought was, if you guys, I know you guys aren't going to decide to rebuild the whole thing, which I wish you would, but meh. If you were to decide to do that, find the landlords if they decide to tear it down again, and then there's your money to rebuild it if you need to.
So we thought about that, so they're the ones that tear it,
Yeah.
you know, maybe
I get that,
playing
yeah.
with kids and, you know, so unless you catch someone actually tearing it up, you don't know.
Yeah,
who done it.
that's true.
But the utility department, they're all for what our plan and stuff. I think that utility department, I think in your yard.
It is in my yard, yeah.
So he said it worked out, so he
Would
said
you
y'all
guys-
replaced the pole, but it's,
That tree.
he wants to pull that fence back a little
Yeah.
bit and then reset the post.
Just one post, and then that would keep the integrity of the 3 houses. Sorry.
Okay.
Whacking you. I talk with my hands, I didn't mean to whack
It's in
you.
my property.
I don't know, that's.
Because I have, like, that tree is just right, it is on my
that
property, but
might
it goes
get-
through.
Jared might say yes because of the power line.
I
That
hope
might be
so.
the utility department.
I might have to ask them, because that tree is bothersome, because, like, it's just going right through the fence.
Gracious.
Goodness.
And that causes your side fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
But-
it may not be, that was promoted, like, yanking it out just because of the power. line.
I'd be okay with that,
That's why they were for this.
yeah. But it's just the safety part of it is my main concern. I just don't want, I like my stuff.
So is there an easy answer to,
It's about
from the city
200
standpoint?
feet wide. I leave the north, I measured it twice, it's approximately 216 feet from the beginning to the corner of where we would start.
So can we make a recommendation to leave that 216 feet like it is? And they know it's ours, but it's in good shape because y'all have taken care of it and your yards are manicured. And tear down the yucky part going the other way. If we can,
416 feet, is that right? Is that
going the other
bad?
way.
Okay, you have an action item, number 5.
Mhm.
Says remove either partially or completely a portion of the fence, Bobby Buck Park east side, part 460 foot from the south fence boundary. That's what you're deciding tonight.
So that 416 feet, is that to that tree?
Yeah. Basically.
That measurements,
I
gave
think
you
so.
two measurements.
You gave me 2 measurements, and that was the bad part. That was the, yeah.
That
I
was
just
the
figured
bad part.
like 216 was the good part.
Okay.
So let's don't.
So that-
let's
so
don't
that's
get-
there.
Let's don't get the 216
No, yeah,
confused
no,
with
no,
what your
no.
action item is.
Yeah,
Well, I make a motion that we do that. Keep the good part and get rid of the yucky part.
so you want,
To remove completely the 416?
Yes, to remove from that, on the
Just
other
what it
side
said.
of her,
Yeah.
on the other side of Emily's, all the way down, that's bad. You like that better than yucky? Larry?
I like the verbiage that's in
Yes,
item
please.
5, which is an action item.
Okay. I made a-
so you're recommending to council action regarding removal of or completely a portion of the fence at Bobby Buck Park.
Yes.
Okay. So she made a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Do I need to do a roll call here?
Can if you want to.
Do we really? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So leave them first.
First
Leave
three houses.
216, take down the rest.
So can I have a question though? If it were to ever get torn down, because I know it's not our property, would you guys provide a privacy fence for me? It was worth a shot. I haven't done this one of these things before.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Right? Thank you, guys.
And you got a great babysitter there. Thank
Item number
you.
6, adjourn.
Thank you for coming, Emily.
Bye. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Lord have